when you trade a player like that, you can't argue to your fan base that your team's better. And so we would tell our GM, don't even go down that road. Let's talk about going forward. We're not even going to address the trade. We're not going to talk about the second-round pick that's coming up in 2 years. Fans don't care. We're not going to talk about the picks that we gave up. We're simply going to say this was a move made in the best interest of our organization. And we would want him to leave it at that. And not only did he not leave it at that, but he kept going and actually contradicted what he said earlier.
Fans of Stefon for the last 4 years, what would you say to them if they ask, how are you better in 2024 with him on the roster, still counting against your cap in 2024?
Yeah, I mean, are we better today? Probably not. Yeah, it's a work in progress, and we're going to continue to work on that. I would just hope that people know I'm as competitive as hell, and I ain't giving in, and we're gonna work through this, and we're gonna continue to look, and I'm confident in the guys we have on the roster, and I'm confident, the staff we have upstairs that helps me, that we'll continue to find pieces to add, and that we'll be ready to roll when it comes time in September.
So which is it? Is he confident in what he has, or does he need to? It's a work in progress that he'll be ready for September. I was confused by that entire press avail, and I think that it did nothing to assuage any Bills fans anywhere other than Diggs. He made a power play, did he not?
What would you tell Bills fans today as you, a former exec, hearing these comments? Like, what would your message be to Bills fans?
That player empowerment is real, and it's pervasive, and it's not just the NBA, and it's clear that he wanted out, and often we will allow a player to get his wish because they make it incredibly difficult. They can make the clubhouse a problem. They can make the locker room, the front office, they can infect players. We actually map out where we put players in the locker room because we don't want certain players next to other players because we think they'll have a negative impact. Conversely, we'll put players next to players when we want them to become friends because we think they'll have a positive impact. Right. And so everything's purposeful. This trade, the way it happened, to me was purposeful, and I think it's okay to tell the fans that. And they went a totally different direction.
Yeah, that's so interesting because, like, on the surface, if you're a Bills fan, you think, look, this has been a very productive, borderline superstar player for us the entire time he's been here. We have a finite Super Bowl window with a quarterback that we just paid a lot of money to and who's a perennial MVP candidate, and we have got nothing to show for it. Also, we've got the famous 13-second game. We kind of struggled last year, made the playoffs, but still didn't make a championship game, didn't make a Super Bowl, obviously. And so I'm just wondering if Bills fans think, like, Jesus, like, are we wasting Josh Allen's prime here? Is our Super Bowl window closing?
I think it's pretty easy to say. We can look back at the Packers last year. No wide receivers. They trade everyone. They're going to be terrible. It turns out that there are other people who can catch passes who are not problems, who actually want to be around. And Diggs actually said, no, it was never. I never had a problem. You got to look at what I said. I never said I had a problem. Players always say that because they don't ever want to be blamed. But it was clear that the marriage was going to end. And sometimes couples hang on until the last kid goes to college, and it doesn't always work out. Other times, you just say, we're going to do it right now and let the chips fall where they may, and I felt that was what happened with the Bills trade.
Yeah, I mean, I guess ultimately a net positive. It's a draft that's stocked with wide receivers. I would assume that Buffalo is going to take one either at 28 or move up, and boom, you got your young, new toy for Josh Allen. And like you said, let the other guys kind of shine. The other players who are on the roster. So it's going to be interesting to see what Buffalo does.
Yeah, and we talk about also what it is to trade up. And a lot of that going on in the draft right now. The question is who trades up, who doesn't. We would ask our GM a very simple question when talking about the draft, because the baseball draft is obviously much more difficult than the NFL draft because most of the players don't hit, and it's years before they do. But before we would talk about trading any player, we're trying to evaluate not just where they will be, but where they are today. In the NFL, it's so important. You can get someone at the 28 spot who's going to be more productive than the person at the 10 spot, but you trade up because you feel like, oh no, we're not going to get him.
Right.
And so we demand of our GMs, I want a depth chart in the draft because I don't want to feel like I have to have this guy or that guy, because desperation, one of my favorite lines, it's a terrible cologne. And when GMs have desperation, or owners do, then you end up making mistakes that cost your team.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.